An undercover officer goes into a women's prison to uncover a network of violence and corruption hidden behind concrete walls. She encounters horrors that even the walls remain silent about, and a system where silence is the currency of survival. Every step brings her closer to exposure, but also to her own death. The ending of this story doesn't just change someone's fate, it shakes everything the country believed in. Don't forget to subscribe and like so you don't miss new stories. The sky above Basra was covered with ash clouds, and even the air seemed thick, as if saturated with the dust of old destinies. The narrow streets slept restlessly, and only the wind stirred the faded flags above the roofs. Silence reigned in the building of the Internal Security Directorate, interrupted only by the creaking of chairs and the click of a lock in a safe. 3 people sat in a room with gray walls and a table without a single sheet of paper. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Major Nasir asked, looking down at the file. "Ready," Layla Hariri answered firmly, without looking away. "There will be no mercy inside, neither from them nor from our own. If they figure you out, we won't have time, even if we want to. I don't ask for mercy, just the opportunity to enter." The man with the mustache in the corner exhaled. "A name you will forget, Noura Bidi. Protests, 15 days of pretrial detention, then a 2-year sentence. Sent to the maximum security prison of Al-Kafir." The entire biography is false, but it is enough for Zahir Mansour to believe. Layla nodded. She had already accepted it. She had already buried herself. The real her. The camera is in the earring. The microphone is in the belt clasp. Everything works autonomously, transmits a signal every 6 hours. If 3 signals are missed, we intervene. "I hope I won't have to," she said quietly, standing up. The next day, the iron gates of Al-Kafir closed behind her like the jaws of a beast. Guards stood on either side of the corridor, faceless, gestureless, like statues. The warden, Farida, with her skinny face and shaved temples, walked ahead without saying a word. Layla heard only her own footsteps and the roar of blood in her ears. "Cell 19, Farida said shortly, opening the heavy metal door. "You're new. Reason for extra attention. Don't get used to it." Layla stepped inside. The cell was narrow and damp. A woman with dark, tangled hair sat on a concrete bench. Her face was turned toward the wall. She did not turn around. "Assalamu alaikum," Layla said softly. The woman was silent. Only her fingers trembled. "I'm Noor," Layla continued, sitting down. "Also new. Apparently, you're not the talkative type." The woman raised her head. Her face was thin, with frozen anxiety in her eyes. Her lips trembled slightly but did not utter a sound. "You're not talking?" Layla lowered her voice. "Or don't you want to talk?" There was no answer, but the look lingered. There was no hostility in it, only an immense weariness. The creak of the lock broke the silence again. Farida appeared at the door. "Lunch! Come out! Just you! The other one stays." "Why?" "Because I said so," she snapped. "You don't ask questions here." The yard smelled of dust and iron. The wire stretched over the fence reflected the sun like a rusty mirror. The women walked in a circle. Some were silent, some muttered under their breath. He stood in the corner. Zahir Mansour, broad-shouldered, with a dark beard and a cold gaze, he smoked, leaning against the wall, and did not take his eyes off Layla. "New?" he asked as she approached. "You don't look like the usual protester. Your eyes are too clear. Maybe I'm just not spoiled yet. Or you pretend well." He took a step closer. His voice was calm, but there was something unpleasant, metallic, ringing in it. "Everything here is built on 2 things, fear and silence. Do you already have reasons to be afraid?" "Not yet," she answered calmly. "They will. It's a matter of time." He left without waiting for an answer. Layla felt every muscle tense. She knew the game was on, and the stakes were higher than life itself. Late in the evening, when the prison was quiet, Layla turned on the internal recorder. Day 1. Contact established with subject. Wary behavior. Cell 19. Prisoner mute. Possibly victim. Signs of violence recorded on others. Will attempt to enter medical bay tomorrow. Her voice sounded even, but a burden was already beginning to accumulate inside. Not fear, responsibility. Samira, that was the name of her neighbor, she later learned, gradually began to trust. Not with words, but with gestures. She shared water, pushed bread closer, nodded when Layla asked if it was warm at night. But it was the eyes that spoke most, and the scars, especially the one that crossed her shoulder blade, thin, as if from a belt or a cable. On the third day, Layla was called to the medical unit. "My stomach hurts," she explained to Farida. "Maybe something with the food." Farida nodded, reluctantly. The medical bay was empty. Only one paramedic, an elderly man with dull eyes. "Take off your clothes," he said. "Sorry? Inspection. Zahir's order. No clothes, no complaints." Layla looked up. There was a camera in the corner. A real one. But not connected. Dusty. For show. She unbuttoned the button slowly, knowing that even this had to be recorded. "No inflammation, no fever." "We'll put in a drip," said the paramedic, taking out a syringe. "A sedative. The regimen here is tough." When she returned to the cell, Samira was sitting against the wall, head down, and handed her a folded piece of paper. On it was a charcoal sketch of a face, Layla's. The caption, "You are the light." "Do you draw?" Layla whispered. "Who taught you?" Samira pointed at herself, then at her neck, and ran her finger down her throat. "They?" She nodded. "Can you show me what happened?" Samira slowly lifted her sleeve. It wasn't just a scar. It was burned. Letters, words, a name. "Sakir?" Layla's voice trembled. She nodded again, and pressed her fingers to her lips as if begging, "Don't talk." Later that night, when the entire prison was asleep, Layla wrote quietly, barely breathing. Day 3. Evidence of personal violence by the target. Prisoner Samira. She is not silent by nature. She was forced to. A victim of systematic torture. Her words confirm the version of organized actions. Threat level, critical. It is necessary to reach the next level. The signal blinked. It went. That means they will receive it. In the morning, Zahir was standing at the gate of the courtyard again. He called Layla. "You said you weren't afraid." "Still not afraid?" "Fear is not what you seek. You feed on silence." "I am not that food," he chuckled. "We'll see." Very soon. Layla turned away, but she could feel it behind her back. He had already begun the hunt. And now she had to walk through the night without losing the light. The cold penetrated even when the walls were silent. Mornings in Al-Kafir began not with the sun, but with muffled footsteps in the corridor, with the rusty clank of locks and a scream that had no meaning. Only sound, like animals. Only here no one asked who was screaming. Here they did not scream. They howled. Layla sat on a concrete bench, her back to the wall opposite Samira. In her hands was half-dry bread. In the air was the smell of chlorine and dampness. Their day was just beginning. But inside they could already feel the fatigue. The kind that wasn't physical, but some kind of gray, pulsating in the bones. "Were you asleep?" she asked quietly. Samira nodded, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her sleeve. "I dreamed of a voice," Layla continued. "It called my name, but I don't remember who it was. My father, probably." Samira looked at her, long, intently. Then she slowly pulled a piece of cloth from under her pillow. Words were written on it in charcoal. Crooked, uncertain, but desperate. "A name is not a crime." Layla ran her fingers over the lines. "Are you afraid that you will forget who you are?" Samira didn't answer, but there was something in her gaze that didn't need words. Pain. Deep, like water in a well that you can't get out with a bucket. The cell door swung open. Farida appeared on the threshold, holding herself rigidly, as if she had been afraid all her life to appear soft. "Noor, come out. Inspection." "Again? I was in the medical bay 2 days ago. An order from the authorities." Layla rose slowly. Under Samira's gaze, she felt no fear, only tension, like before a storm. The corridors were empty, but the air seemed thicker. There were 2 guards standing at the door to Zahir's office. One was young, with sharp features, the other older, with a dull look. They did not look her in the eye. "Come in," said one of them. The office was not like the rest of the prison. It smelled of leather and tobacco, and the furniture gleamed as if licked clean. On the walls were books, a globe, and diplomas. Zahir sat at the table, twirling a silver lighter in his fingers. Sit down, he pointed to a chair. Layla remained standing. You are not being offered. You are being ordered. She sat down silently. I'm watching you, Noor. You're not like the others. You don't cry. You don't fight. You don't remain silent. You listen. You watch. You think. Too dangerous a quality for a woman within these walls. I know how to listen. It's not a crime. Everything here is a crime if you are not on my side. He stood up, walked around the table, and stopped behind her. You have a choice. Some women here live quite tolerably. They are not touched, not tortured, not broken. They just have to be docile, obedient. And the others? Others are dying. Layla straightened up. And you call this order? He leaned closer. I call it governance. Without fear, everything here will collapse. Order is not based on rules, but on pain. It has always been that way. It won't always be, she said quietly. He froze. Then he pulled back and laughed. Do you think you can change this world? Little girl with shining eyes? Everyone who tried is now lying in the ground or on the floor with a noose around their neck. Don't be next. Layla looked up. It's better to be next than to live like a shadow. He slammed his fist on the table, but it wasn't so much anger as irritation. He didn't know what to do with her. That scared him more than resistance. Take her away, he shouted to the guards. As Layla was led back down the hallway, her heart pounded in her chest like a drum. She knew she was on edge after this conversation, but so was he. In the cell, Samira waited, with anxiety on her face. It's okay, Layla whispered. Bye. That same night, hiding under the blanket, she turned on the transmitter. Day 6. Subject Zahir Mansour offered patronage in exchange for obedience. Threatened violence. System of intimidation and coercion confirmed. Guard behavior is subordinate. Next step is to obtain records from the administrative block. Need to find a key or access to the office. The next morning, Farida appeared at the door again. You've been assigned to the kitchen. Congratulations. It means you've been trusted. It's not an honor, Layla muttered. No, but it is a step towards survival. The prison kitchen was warm and stuffy. It smelled of spices, rancid oil, and caustic detergent. The women worked silently, exchanging only short phrases. The head cook, Aisha, was as thin as a skeleton, but her movements were quick and precise. Are you new? She asked without looking. Yes, Noor. Remember, keep quiet, do it, and you'll live until the evening. Layla was washing potatoes when she heard a scream. One of the guards dragged in a woman in a black hijab. She was struggling, but making no sound. Her face was covered in bruises. Where's the food for Block D? He barked. We didn't make it in time, Aisha said quietly. Then don't complain if someone disappears. Before Layla could turn around, the guard threw the woman to the floor. She screamed, and only then did Layla realize it was Samira, in new clothes, with a face disfigured by anger. What did you do to her? She screamed. The guard turned around. And who are you to ask? Layla rushed forward, but Aisha held her hand. Not now. If you want to help her, survive. Samira crawled, pressing her hand to her side. The guard spat next to her and left. Layla ran up and hugged her. Everything will be fine. I won't leave you. That night she wrote, Day 7. Samira is the subject of a brutal beating. There are traces. It is necessary to evacuate or provide protection. Visual evidence is recorded. Subject Zahir requires isolation. Please expedite the action. The next morning she was summoned to the administrative block, not to see Zahir, but to see a guard named Abbas. He was old with a raspy voice. Are you from the kitchen? He asked. Yes. I saw the way you looked yesterday. You're not one to keep quiet, but if you want to live, keep your mouth shut. I can't. He sighed. Then he took a bunch of keys out of the drawer. One of them is from the archive. There are records there. I didn't help. You don't know me. Oh, why are you doing this? Because I look at you and I see my daughter, and she's long gone. She was the same. She believed in the truth. Layla took the key. Thank you. She knew she had one night to get what she needed. Then it could all come crashing down. The prison was falling asleep, but Layla wasn't. With the key in her hand and her breath in her throat, she crept into the archive. The locked door opened with a soft click. Inside were shelves, drawers, dust. She turned on the flashlight. Folders, magazines, discs. One has a handwritten note. Sector B, surveillance camera, week 12. She put the disc in her pocket. The wind howled outside the window. Footsteps outside the door. She froze. Who's there? The guard's voice. Layla hid between the cabinets. Her heart pounded in her ears. The steps approached, stopped, then moved away. She only exhaled when she was back in the cell. Samira was asleep. Layla hugged her, trembling. We're almost there. All that's left is to hand this over. Just a little more. One more night. But she didn't yet know that one night would become the longest in her life. The night in Al-Kafir was not dark. It was viscous. The darkness here did not fall from above, as in other places. It rose from below, from the floor, from the walls, from the bodies. It was as if the prison itself were breathing out darkness. Layla sat on the narrow cot, her knees pulled to her chest. In her palm lay a disc, smooth, cold, heavier than any weapon. It pulsed in her fingers as if alive, because inside it was the truth. And if it reached the world, everything would change. And if not, are you awake? Samira raised her head. Her face was still bruised, but there was a sparkle in her eyes. No, I can't. Layla smiled, but her gaze remained anxious. I hear too much. Are you afraid? No, I just think about how many women here have broken down, about those who will never get out, about those who will get out but will not return to themselves. I was given a chance, but they weren't. Samira took her hand, quietly, carefully. There was more support in that touch than in 100 words. Tomorrow, Layla continued, I have to hand over the disc. I'll leave it in an empty laundry locker. Farida will pick it up. She agreed. Do you believe her? I believe that she is tired of being afraid, and that is enough. The morning began like all the others, with a scream. Somewhere in the third block, a woman was howling. Someone was banging on the door. Someone was calling for their mother. Everything was as usual. Only inside Layla, something was trembling. Not fear, but a premonition, like the wind before a storm. In the kitchen, Aisha met her silently. She placed a bucket of potatoes in front of her. You're holding up well, she said quietly. I saw the way you looked at Zahir. Evenly. Not defiantly, but not submissively either. That's dangerous. I have no other choice. Aisha wiped her hands on her apron and looked away. I was like that once. I thought I could help. I was a teacher. Then one of my students was raped by an official. I wrote a statement. A month later, I was here. I still don't know what for, according to the papers. And you remain silent? Sheshut, now yes. I don't have a family anymore. But you're different. You don't belong here. And this place feels it. The kitchen door swung open. Farida walked in, stern as always, but her eyes lingered on Layla. For a moment, a barely perceptible nod. Everything was decided. Noor, she said, linen, changing clothes for Block B. Take it, put it in the cells. Layla nodded. She walked up to the metal box, pulled back the lid, and tucked the disc into one of the folds of clean linen. Her heart was pounding in her throat. Everything depended on this moment. The day passed in the hum of voices and the clatter of pots. But towards evening, something changed. The guards walked too quietly. Zahir did not show himself. It was as if a storm had already begun, only its center was invisible. After dinner, Layla and Samira were detained at the entrance to the cell. Checking, the guard said. Checking what? Personal belongings. By order of the chief. Farida stood aside, silent. Her eyes did not rise. Layla understood. Something went wrong. She has nothing, she tried to object. We just came from the kitchen. We know better. The guard took a disc out of his inside pocket. That very one. Yes, did you leave this? It's just a music disc. I found it on the floor. Of course, on the floor. You see, we have a music academy here. Zahir appeared from around the corner, his face stony. He approached slowly, savoring the moment with pleasure. Anemun, here's our actress. A spy, apparently. Did you think we wouldn't find out? I'm not a spy, Layla said firmly. I'm a human being. He hit her, without warning, on the cheek, with such force that she fell. Samira screamed but was immediately pushed against the wall. Lock them in the cell, both of them, Zahir shouted. We'll deal with them thoroughly tomorrow. The darkness of the isolation cell was different. It didn't hide. It absorbed. Layla sat on the floor, pressed against the cold wall. Samira was next to her, trembling. Behind the door, silence. It's all in vain? Samira whispered. No, Layla said. They didn't know the signal was already out, until they caught me. I sent it all at lunch. The last communication. They had to get it. And if not, then I still did what I had to. Suddenly, a crash. Someone was running down the corridor. Screams. Doors slammed, locks clicked. Something fell. Then a familiar voice. Layla! Layla Hariri, Farida. Are you alive? We are here. The door swung open. Light hit my eyes. Farida was standing on the threshold. Behind her were two men in black uniforms. Not prison uniforms. Special forces. It's over, she said. We got the signal. The order to storm was 40 minutes ago. The archives are already sealed. Zahir has been arrested. He's lying face down on the floor now. Layla closed her eyes. Everything in her chest tightened. Not from relief, but from pain. From too much silence. Samira, she whispered. She looked away, tears streaming down her face. She smiled. Are we free? Yes, Layla replied. We are free. But now the hard part begins. There were reporters at the exit of the block. Cameras, people. Those who were waiting for the truth. Those who were hoping that at least someone would say, enough. Layla stepped forward, in dirty clothes with a split lip, but with a straight back. My name is Layla Hariri. I am an internal control officer. I spent 8 days here as a prisoner. I saw torture. I saw rape. I saw souls broken. I handed over all the evidence. And now I ask you not to take my word for it, but to watch, listen, and draw conclusions. Some applauded. Some cried. Samira stood nearby, squeezing Layla's hand. Thank you, she whispered. You did the impossible. No, we did. Everyone who didn't keep silent. Everyone who survived. Now it's the turn of those who can't speak. And behind him, Al-Kafir, for the first time in many years, froze in silence. But there was no longer horror in that silence. Only the end. And the beginning. The morning in Basra was heavy, as if the sky itself was hesitating whether to rise today. The air above the city was stagnant, humid, as if holding its breath. Journalists, cameras, cameramen, passers-by, everyone who had ever heard of the scandal in Al-Kafir prison, were gathering outside the Ministry of Justice. Over the past 24 hours, the name of Layla Hariri had thundered across the news. An officer who had gone through the hell of prison undercover. A woman who had opened the country to face her conscience. The building on the top floor housed a temporary investigative headquarters. White walls, blindingly bright lights, and folders. Folders, folders. Each one a fate. Each one a pain. 3 people sat at a long table. Layla, Prosecutor Fadl, and the independent human rights defender, Mr. Najjar. That's just what we found in the first 24 hours, the prosecutor said, moving the photographs around. CCTV footage, medical reports, testimonies from former prisoners. But the entire system is designed to protect itself. Without real pressure, all of this will dissolve into formalities. We have to go higher, Layla said quietly. Zahir was an enforcer. He's the ugly face of the system. But someone gave him authority. Someone covered for him. Someone put him there. Are you hinting at the minister? I'm hinting at the structure. At those who finance the prison construction. At the company Al-Hakm Invest. Check the accounts. Check the connections. Contracts, subcontracts, lobbyists. The trail leads to them. We don't have a warrant, the prosecutor sighed. Not yet. The political pressure is colossal. They claim that you set up an honest administrator for the sake of PR. Let them come to the courtroom, Layla said firmly. There we'll see who set up whom. At this point, the meeting ended. Layla went out into the corridor. The window was open. Below, screams, camera flashes, and a roar could be heard. Her name was being chanted. Some held placards. Some came with photographs of their dead relatives. "Aren't you tired?" a voice came from behind. It was Farida. She was wearing a different uniform. No longer a guard's, but a witness protection officer's. "I'm tired all the time," Layla smiled. "But it doesn't matter now. I can't stop. Not now." "I brought you something," Farida said, handing over a small envelope. "It's from Samira. She left. To another city. There's a clinic, work, new documents." Layla opened the envelope. Inside was a thin sheet of paper. On it was a drawing. The silhouette of a woman walking along a thin bridge. Darkness behind her. Light in front of her. No signature. No words. Only silence, which spoke louder than any speech. "She deserves peace," Layla whispered. "And you?" Farida asked. "It's too early for me." A few days later, she was standing in the lobby of the Al Bayan Hotel, where an investment forum was taking place. There were security guards along the walls, waiters with trays, men in expensive suits, and among them, he, Mahdi Ashraf, an official, a businessman, an investor in prison reform. His face shone on the screens. The voice of progress, as the press liked to write. He spoke confidently with a smooth speech, with an emphasis on new ethics and transparency. The hall was filled with ambassadors, ministers, bankers. No one knew that she was sitting in the front row. Layla stood up when the host invited questions. "My name is Layla Hariri," she said into the microphone. "I would like to ask Mr. Ashraf a question." "Of course," he answered with a smile, not recognizing her. "Please." "How much did you earn from the Al-Kafir prison contract?" she asked. He froze. "Sorry? I have documents. A contract signed by your representative through an offshore account in Djibouti. The funds were spent on repairs that didn't happen, on cameras that didn't work, on security that raped." A whisper rolled through the room. Ashraf tried to interrupt it. "I don't understand who you are." "I am the one who was inside, the one you hid behind statistics, and I brought you something." Layla took out a flash drive. "These are video recordings, in the first person. This is a list of women who died during the budget optimization. These are their names, not numbers, and they will be heard now." The screen behind her came to life. Slides followed one another. Photos, recordings, screams, scars, faces. There was a deathly silence in the hall. Someone stood up, someone left, someone cried. "Mr. Ashraf," the host's voice said, "do you want to comment?" But he was no longer there. He had left. And soon the news reported he had been detained while trying to leave the country. His home had been searched. The documents from his office had disappeared. The next day, a line formed outside the Human Rights Organization's office. Women, mothers, former prisoners, lawyers. Everyone wanted one thing. More. Layla came out to them. "We won't stop," she said, "because we don't have the right to do that anymore. We'll search. We'll collect. We'll name names, so that no one else disappears into the shadows." And the wind over the city was already different. Not viscous, fresh, beginning. Morning rose slowly over Basra, as if the city itself did not yet believe that it could breathe freely. The air was fresh, but it had the feeling of silence after a storm, the kind that leaves its mark not on the streets, but on people. White flags fluttered over the square in front of the new Civil Rights Committee. There were no emblems on them, only the word Haya, life. Birds circled above the minarets, the sun reflected in the window panes, and below, among the assembled, stood she. Layla Hariri no longer wore a uniform. Today she wore a simple dress the color of sand, a light headscarf, a free step, and a confidence that grew not from power, but from truth. The whole country knew her name, but she still answered it as before, calmly without pride. "Layla, are you sure you want to speak first?" asked Fidel, now the new head of the committee. "We can start with the prosecutors, with the report, with the numbers." "Let the numbers wait," she replied. "People don't come to listen to graphs. People come to hear a voice they recognize themselves in." He nodded. Everything was ready: stage, microphone, cameras, live broadcasts. Behind him was a building with new windows and new people. Inside were reopened cases, new investigations, a team made up of those who had once been brave enough to say no. Layla came to the microphone. People fell silent. Some held photographs. Some held flowers. Some held the hands of those they had recently considered lost. "My name is Layla Hariri," she began, "and I came here not as a hero, but as a witness. I didn't save the world. I just didn't close my eyes." The wind touched the fabric of her scarf, and in this silence, every sound seemed important. "I have been asked many questions. The most frequent of them is, why did I decide? Why did I need to do this? Why go where there is no light? I will answer. Because one day I saw the face of a woman who could no longer speak, and I understood. If I remain silent, it will not only be me who will disappear. We will all disappear, one by one." She took a breath and looked into the crowd. "Ponanan, there are no executioners here today. Only those who remain. Only those who survived. Only those who started. We will not bring back those who died, but we can say their names. And if we repeat them out loud, they will not disappear." Behind her, quiet music began to play. Not a hymn, not a march. A song. Simple, old. Layla's mother used to sing it when she washed the floor in her school. A song about the road, about returning. After the performance, Layla went into the shadow of the arch. A man approached her, polite, with documents in his hands. "Ms. Hariri, I am from the International Committee. We want to invite you to Geneva, to the Reform Forum." "Thank you, but I'm not sure I can. It's just the beginning for me here. We can help spread your model, create analogs, support rehabilitation centers." "Then it's not a forum, then it's work." He smiled. "We'll discuss it. And yes, your neighbor, Samira. We found a place for her at the art school, in Karbala. She's already started teaching, and she sent you this." He held out an envelope. Inside was a postcard with a picture. A woman holding a star. On the back were just two words. "You are a bridge." Layla closed her eyes, quietly, like a prayer. In the evening, she sat in her new office. On the wall was a map of the country. It had marks on it, where human rights centers had already been opened, where hotlines were operating, where former prisoners had become volunteers. In the corner was a folder with Ashraf's case. Where there had once been money, there were now sentences. His name had disappeared from the screens, but not from memory. Farida came in with a cup of coffee. "You know," she said, "sometimes it seems to me that all of this is a dream, that we'll go back to that kitchen where you washed potatoes and I pretended not to see. And then I realize, no, we really did get out." "Because we're not alone," Layla answered. "Because someone was raising their hand. Because someone was screaming. Because someone stayed. Do you know who you have become? A human being. That's enough." The phone rang in the room. On the screen, a new case, a new woman, a new name. Layla picked up the phone. "Center of Truth. I'm listening to you." And in that simple voice there was hope again, not loud, but steady, the kind that will never disappear.